leaders of tomorrow, what does the future hold for us?
Come on, mechanic. See as you dey pour oil for water, so the water don't black. As fish they quench inside them, now so man picking the seco. Even you, big company, una they follow pour bad chemical for water, they throw away all kind dirty for corner side. Una want poison all of we? Make small sense enter una head. All this oil yama they poison water, even the fish and the chop will live inside. And now so man go they quench small. As we dey talk self, you self brother and sister executive. Una just sit down, they chop mama put for place where dirty don't tall pass Mount Kilimanjaro. Which kind dirty wahala we dey inside is so? Oh yeah, everybody put your hand together. Make we save we environment and save we life. And that of we picking them all today.
This message now from Friends of the Environment.
Did you see those pictures? The pictures make me feel very sad. Sometimes I feel as if the whole of our country will soon be overtaken by garbage. Is there nothing my family and I can do?
Waste is as old as man. Its history dates back to whatever period in time when man came to being and inherited the habit of excessive consumption. And so, man, all through time, has always devised means of disposing of whatever waste accruing from his exploitation of nature. As society grew into a complex phenomenon, so did waste. Strange as it may sound, man didn't seem to consider waste as any kind of problem from the onset, and if he did, it never occurred to him in time the exact magnitude of this problem. For instance, in the past 5 years, the cost of waste disposal has risen by over 500% worldwide. In most third world countries, the rate of disposal is often not commensurate with the rate of waste collection. This leads to a build-up of waste, which does not just deface the city, but poses serious health hazards to people.
There are many dangers coming out of improper disposal of waste. First of all, it encourages breeding of disease-carrying organisms, like outbreak of foodborne diseases, diseases like cholera, diseases like diarrhea and vomiting. And of course, you have other disease conditions that arise out of odor, breeding of flies, breeding of insects, and then of rats. Rats breed a lot where you have a lot of refuse because it serves as a very rich source of food. And when rats breed rapidly, you can have an outbreak of plague, which is another important problem with improper disposal of refuse. And of course, you can also have, the situation whereby there is a spontaneous outburst of fire outbreak. You have all that. These are some of the few that one can mention. But mostly they are diseases connected with, disease-carrying organisms.
Àjàkálẹ̀ àrùn ó ti wà tipẹ́. Kì í dẹ̀ ṣe ohun tó jẹ́ pé ó bá ìlú kan mu àbí ẹnì kankan. Ó máa ń túlù ni. Àwọn àgbàlagbà wa dẹ̀ ti mọ̀ òfin tó tó, òfin ìmọ́tótó ó jẹ́ ti ìlú yìí.
It is absolutely not true that dirty not dey kill African man. Dirty dey kill African man. If you are living in a dirty environment, you are more susceptible to infections. And it's been known that in the African society where the development is lower than in developed countries, there are more infections than in developed countries where the level of hygiene is higher.
Even now, the waste disposal system has proved to be very inefficient because of our peculiar consumption pattern. Waste of different composition get lumped into one and the same garbage container, which soon gets filled and spills over. Oftentimes, people resort to burning the refuse as a means of solving the problem, but unfortunately, more problems are created. Other times, some of this waste are dumped in gutters, blocking the drainage system. If waste management is such a big problem, are we then condemned to live forever with waste? Fortunately, the answer to this is no. Experts believe that the way out is not only a change in our consumption pattern, but a change in our individual attitudes, which will ensure the reduction in the amount of waste that gets thrown into the streets.
We should try to address our minds to the 3 R's. And then when you talk about the 3 R's, you talk about reduction of waste, reuse of some of this waste, and again, recycling of waste. And then when you talk about reduction, reduction starts from our homes. That is, trying to see those things which should be disposed of, and then some which should not be disposed of. And in the course of that, you'll be able to reduce the end product that comes out to the bin in the final output when you go to dispose. And by that, you would have sorted out those that could be reused, and this can be washed and reused.
We try to convince people of the dangers inherent in improper disposal of refuse. We try to let them realize that refuse collection starts from the home. We try to educate them to understand the need to have a proper refuse bin with lid, which can be carried easily and be emptied easily. A refuse bin that cannot be turned over easily by animals, and refuse bin that is big enough to contain refuse bin generated in between collections, so that you will not have over spilling or overfill of refuse. Of course, you also try to educate them as to how to separate certain kinds of refuse. You have garbage, which is mainly food remnants, and then you have other refuse like incombustible refuse, bottles, cans, and so on.
But what is waste sorting at source all about? To make sense out of this, we have to understand the nature of waste.
Household waste can be in two places. The leftover foods, rotten fruits and so on, and then solid cans, empty plastic containers, plastic bags, and all forms of non-biodegradable materials form the bulk of the household waste. And what one can do generally is to separate the two. You separate the raw materials, that is the wet waste, garbage, which we would now call garbage, and the other solid waste. As we see here in the container, there's plastic bag here contains only solid waste, in which we have things like other plastics put together, paper like that, aluminum foils, bags like this, that and sardine tins. They are packed in this bag, and we can throw this away separately whilst we take the garbage, because we have devised a way of saving our garbage, like so. This bucket contains the wet materials, leftover foods, eggshells, rotten fruits, or whatever it is that we think can decompose very easily. As you can see, there are even some fruit flies, maggots already operating to degrade these leftover foods.
The practice in most homes is to lump all sorts of waste together in one container.
Taking a close look at the refuse here, you will find out that you have some tires, some cartons, broken bottles, plastics, and tins. These are things that we are saying that should be sorted out from source, and that's the essence of sorting out waste from source before they are brought out to the streets for disposal. Some of these things should have been sorted out from source, right from the home, right from the kitchen. You could see orange peels, plantain peels, and things like that. These are all leftover meals that should have been sorted out together in one spot, so that by the time they are coming out to the streets to be dumped, they are kept together in a place. And things like tires and plastics that could still be recycled for use should also be kept together in a place after being sorted. If you look at the end of that corner there by the tree, you will find out that some plastics, bottles, and buckets have already been sorted out, and these are things that would be recycled for use.
After carefully separating the waste, then comes the question of what to do with the different components.
If you have space, there are several things you can do. You can dig in your backyard if you are in the habit of gardening, or if you think that you can get them together so you can sell to those horticulturists who are on the roadside for as manure. So what we can do is, if you have space, dig a trench of this dimension, about 1 foot deep. It's not supposed to be too deep, but just about 1 foot deep, and the dimension can suit the space that you have. What we have here is about 1 meter by 1 meter square. And once we have done this, you will see that we have removed the topsoil, but the topsoil should be carefully removed and placed on the side, because you will need that topsoil later on. And after you have done that, we can dump you have prepared the place, and the garbage can now be brought, that we have shown you earlier on. This is dump it into at the base, and as many things as possible that you have around, dry leaves, dry grass, or whatever it is, can be brought in. It doesn't make any difference whether they are fresh or whether they are dry. Just to have, you can continue to pile them until you have filled the space you have created. Once you have done that, then you take the topsoil and spread over what you have done, and then water it. After you have watered it, you can cover it with a large sheet of plastic material, particularly black one, so that light will not penetrate, because you need to have something to keep the light from the organisms, because the organisms don't like light that would begin to operate on this. Once we have done that, you can leave it for the next few days and let the action of all the animals, insects and things go in and out. And after that, we then prepare a second place where you can always turn over. But if you have a large one like this, you can take a fork and just turn the soil over from time to time until they have become like little pieces of shreds or sand or whatever it is, because you have mixed soil with them as you turn them in and out. This is an example of a completed compost unit. This one is about 3 weeks old, and it has household materials. It also has chicken dumplings and cow dung, because anyone who does little vegetable garden needs manure to put. We have done this, and the same dimension as I gave you before. The purpose of these blocks is to make sure that there is air going in through, because most of the organisms require air. And this is the top. From time to time, it's moist as it is. From time to time, we water it and we probe it so that we know that it's moist from time to time, all the way from top to the bottom. If not, we add water from time to time. In fact, the temperature of this thing can be very, very high, such that we know then that action of the organisms is going on inside it. At the end of the day, this thing should be down to about a third of its original height. In fact, this has gone down considerably in the past 3 weeks, and it's still some more, maybe in another 2 weeks, it will go down and be ready for use.
For many city dwellers, the idea of locating a compost site may not be an easy task due to the choked up nature of most houses.
For those who don't have space and have very little space to play with, they still can do their compost. This is a prototype. You can make it to suit your small space or your large space. This container measures 60 centimeters by 60 centimeters and 30 centimeters deep, with a cover that you can open and close. It should remain shut when you have filled it with your materials. It also has a strap that you open and close, either to add water or to add your materials. Inside also, because you now need to turn this constantly, we have something that the welder can make, and that will turn your garbage from time to time so that all aspects of it would be covered. Also, it would increase the surface area of your garbage so that the organisms can operate more readily. This has its own unique advantage too. You can spread a thin layer of newspaper, no more than 2, below before you start putting your garbage, because the newspapers and newsprint take some time to decompose. So you put all your garbage inside. If you are in the habit of having plants around, all the leaves of your plants that come down, just dump them in initially, and after you have done that, the other thing, then you add a little bit of sand. Once you have added the sand is to ensure that the organisms that would perform their role would have been there, because this is part of the topsoil that we have brought in now to add to this. Subsequently, you will just open here and just feed in if it's not filled up enough. From there, we can then add a little bit of water. Just add water, because moisture is very important for these microorganisms and for fast for good decomposition. Now once you have put it there, you just cover it. This one you don't, because there's already a cover, you may not need to put a plastic cover. But if you can afford it, you cover it and then shut it up and make sure that everything is secure. And it should not be open from here once you start. After about a week, you can then turn the material. As you can see, it's turning inside. I can show you so that you know exactly what is going on by, let me open it so just for you to see when we turn it, to see what action will be going on with all the material. You can see that everything will be turned one way or the other as they decompose. So it shouldn't be very expensive. We have used a 1/4 inch wood. I think that's, and you perforate on the sides for air, just as we have done on the other side.
Remember, we will need 3 separate containers for the 3 different categories. First, organic biodegradable matter like food leftover, plant materials, yam peel, orange peels, bones, and many more. Second, dry reusable materials like broken china, newspapers, scrap metal, empty cans, broken furniture. And third, treatable waste like old batteries, plastics and nylons, old appliances, expired drugs and cosmetics and toxic chemicals of any sort.
At Ekwesel Paper Mills, Alausa, we take in pure white paper bond or bank or cartridge. We also accept computer waste paper, either shredded or not shredded. We also accept office paper. That kind of office paper has to be sorted out. That is, the colored paper therein has to be sorted out. It's a place where you come in with your waste, either in small quantity or in large quantity, and you collect your naira.
These used tires are picked from the dustbin and brought to homes for reused. You pile them in 4-fold, put black soil, and plant any other vegetable in it. You can use it in your compound where even you have cemented, anywhere, and it will give you a very good plantation.
At the end of the day, very little of the contents of these containers will get to the streets. With the sort at source system, it is now easy to make sense out of day-to-day rubbish. If we all abide by the process of sorting waste at source from our various homes, we may not be too far from reclaiming for our environment the peace and serenity of that age of innocence when man lived in harmony with nature, balancing